Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Now that I have my screen shared, up at the top, you're probably in full screen mode. If you hit escape, you can get out of full screen mode. I want you to just watch for now and don't try to follow along what I'm doing in Matrix. I really just want you kind of watching, and then I'll give you some time at the end to go in and play and ask questions and whatnot. But up at the top, you'll see a little green box that says View Options. If you click on that, I recommend for these classes doing the side-by-side, or the sidebar, excuse me. That will keep my screen up in the middle, and then you'll see the participants over on your right-hand side along with the chat. I'm going to stop my video while I present. I tend to make weird faces as I'm looking for things on my screen, but I love that some of you have your video on. It's good to see faces. It's so strange to train like this without being in a classroom and seeing your faces. So I love it when people have cameras on. Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Have your camera on. Everybody else is shy today. Either they're still in their pajamas or they don't want to be seen today. All right, I'm going to stop my video here while I'm presenting. All right, let's go ahead and jump in over to Matrix here. And I'm going to close this. You don't need to see all my crazy text messages up here. Okay. Are you all able to see this okay? Is it big enough for you?
No, it needs to be bigger.
Okay, I'll make it bigger. I've got this huge monitor in front of me, and sometimes if I make it too big, it starts bleeding off of everybody's computers.
That's good. Yeah.
If you go into full screen mode, it might help. If you pressed escape and went out of full screen, you might get back into it. Matrix will only go so big for me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. If you have any questions, either press and hold your space bar to unmute yourself. I'm going to make sure everybody is muted. To unmute and talk, you can either unmute or just press and hold your space bar. That'll unmute you as you're talking. Keep it down, and then when you're finished, just let it up. All right, so I am in the main, my main screen of Matrix. Mine might look a little bit different than yours. I just want to show you a couple navigation things in here. Some of you will already know how to do some of this stuff. Others, it'll be new. I learn new stuff all the time when I'm in Matrix. You know, when you use it for so long, you get used to just clicking and going right to where you're used to going, and you don't necessarily pay attention to all of the features that you could be missing. So that's really what I want to cover today, is show you some of the bells and whistles and shortcuts that I found in Matrix. Feel free at any time to chime in if you have found some other things that could be helpful for the group or things that I missed. By all means, please unmute yourself and chime in. I'd love to learn from you just as much as you learn from me. So first thing that I want to show you in here is the search bar up here at the top, the shortcut bar. A lot of people don't realize that you can type MLS numbers in here, but you can also type in addresses. So if you've got a partial address or you know what address you're looking for, you can start typing that in up here and hit search, and it'll pull up that address. So great little shortcut. You can also do, if you're looking for, let's say, a specific neighborhood. So I'm going to go active. We'll go Oxford Mills. I don't know if they have anything active. It'll ask you if you meant subdivision or street. Typically, I'm searching subdivision, so I click subdivision there. That's what I meant. And it'll pull up anything active for me that's in Oxford Mills. If I want a shortcut and want to look at the active, you've got to put a space in between these. I want to see everything active, backup, pending in Oxford Mills. It'll then show me everything. There's only 2 of them in here. Everything active, pending, and if there's any backup, it would pull that up as well. But I don't know if you all have ever used this shortcut bar. I used to use it all the time for MLS numbers and didn't realize that you could type so much into it. You know, you can type partial addresses into it and hit search. It beats having to go under the search address and then use those fields. It's a great little shortcut. Okay, so let me go back to the home screen here. Another thing on your home screen, just navigation wise, you can move, like I said at the get-go, my screen might look a little bit different than yours. You can move these tiles around. You can add tiles and take out tiles. If I don't want, for example, the stats in here, I can click this X right next to it and it'll take that off of my home screen, which is kind of nice. I've got to remember now how I get it back on there, but I'll remember. You can also grab, you'll notice when I mouse over this at the top, if I put my mouse on the title bar, it turns in, I call it the cross. Turns in the cross, I can click and hold, and I can drag these wherever I want to. The only thing on here that you can't move are these news and alerts. Those are locked in, but you can move around any of this other stuff, which is kind of nice just by clicking and holding. Couple things that you'll notice that I have on here, I have the stats up. You can set up frequent searches or frequent things that you pull for stats and have shortcuts in your stats bar right up here. And I think if I go to my matrix, and I go to settings, I can, let me see if I can figure out where to do this. Those are our hot sheets. I'll find it. If anybody else knows, I'll figure out how to get those stats back on my home screen. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will just note why we're here in settings. I know, when we join the association and we go to our matrix class and we get started as an agent, we go in and we set up your contact information, and then oftentimes you never go back and revise it. Maybe as phone numbers change, as we went through as Better Homes and Gardens, we went through a change from Prudential to BHG, and I realized after a couple months that I had never updated my header and footer pictures that I have in here. They still have Prudential logos on them. I never see those when I'm in Matrix. My clients see them though if I send them any links out of Matrix. So I would recommend just doing a quick check. Again, go to My Matrix and go to Settings. And then up here you can customize your email signature, for example, and your header, footer, if you've got images that you want that are on your header. I need to update mine. It still has my old last name. This is what clients see when I send things out to them. You can customize your CMA cover sheet. This is really, there's not a whole lot of customizing that you can do on this, but you can, make sure that you've got correct and updated information in here. All right, let's head back over to the home screen. And the next thing that I want to show you up here, just navigation wise, I've showed you the shortcut, the speed bar. Right here, recent searches. I am embarrassed to admit this, but I discovered this about a year ago, and I've been in Matrix for 13 years. I don't know if this is something that they added at some point, but I had no idea that this was here. So recent searches, if I've been searching for something, I log out of Matrix or I get timed out of Matrix, I come back, I don't have to go back in and recreate the search. If I've done it recently, it's going to show up right down here in my drop down. So here are those recent searches that I've done just in this session since we've been in class. And then these are some other searches that I've been doing. So you can click on these and it'll bring right back up the results, whatever criteria you were searching for. Kind of a nice little shortcut there. The other thing that I want to show you is, as far as shortcuts go, is that when you're in Matrix, this happens all the time, you're trying to do a CMA, you're in the middle of sorting through 56 listings and trying to figure out which 3 you're going to show your client. Somebody calls, they're like, have you seen this MLS, this new listing? And you don't want to go out of what you're currently doing. Here's a way that you can open up a second window and not lose your place, not lose what you're doing. So I want you to watch my mouse here. I'm going to go up to the top. I'm in Chrome, and I recommend using Chrome. I think it's an awesome browser. I don't know, I can't tell you if you're on something different than Chrome, how you would do this. I know there's a way to do it, but it's super easy in Chrome. You can right click up here. My mouse is up on Matrix, and I can hit duplicate, and it'll duplicate the window for me. So now I can continue doing what I was doing over here, and I can come over here and I can search for that MLS number that the client just called me about without losing.
I think there's a second way to do that too under search, and it'll say open new window.
That is a way to do it. There's 2 ways to do it. You can either, I think it's easier to go up here and just hit duplicate. The other way you can do it is go to, I'm not clicking on this, I'm just putting my mouse over it. You can go to detail, again, put your mouse over it, and then you have to right click. And right click, you can hit open link in new tab, and it'll open your search in a new tab. So either way, it gets you the same result, whichever one you find easier. But again, to duplicate the window, open a second screen so you can have basically 2 searches. I like this too when I'm doing a CMA. On one tab, I'll have the actual property open. And then on the other tab, I'll have my searches open where I'm looking for comps. Any questions on that, what I've covered, anything I've covered so far? Feel free to hit your space bar, hold it down to unmute yourself, or you can type questions in the chat. All right. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the home screen here. Thanks, Pam. Okay, I don't know how many of you use, and obviously I can't ask for a raise of hands right now because a lot of you don't have cameras on. I don't know how many of you use Matrix and put clients in here either to set them up on listing alerts, searches, or to email them the listings that you found. For instance, for buyer clients, you might email them a link of listings out of here. When we have a lot of inventory or more inventory, you can send them a link of 10 and say, okay, narrow down to your top 6 for us to see this week. But I want to show you how you add people in here as contacts. I know not everybody on here uses the contacts feature or the carts feature, so I want to spend some time showing you how you can use the carts feature. Just if you'll just type into chat if you all use or don't use carts, just give me a yes if you use the carts feature and a no if you've never used it. That way I kind of get a sense as to what your experience level is. I know how detailed to get with it. Thank you. Okay, it looks like the majority is not use the carts. Thank you, that just helps me as I go along here. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you, and this will lead into carts, is a lot of you know how to set up contacts, but just in case, we're going to go through that first. I'm going to menu at the top here to My Matrix, and I'm going to go to Contacts. And here I'm going to go all the way. These are all the contacts that I have in here. I apologize if I'm making you sick. Down here at the very bottom, there's an add button. So I'm going to go ahead and add somebody. You're going to have an AOL account. Nobody ever has an AOL account anymore. So I enter their first name, their last name, and their email address. Those are the 3 things that I need to put them in as a contact. If you don't have an email address or you don't want them to receive emails outside of Matrix, but still want them to have a cart so you can sort the listings for them, you can also put your own email. I do it for quite a few. You can put your own email address in here as well. This next drop down here, any emails that get sent out of Matrix, this will be the salutation that is used. So if I don't use ever when I send my clients a dear Baker McFakerson, usually I say something a lot more casual. So I'm going to enter a custom salutation. And then if I want to put a phone number cell in here, I certainly can. Up here is where you can opt to enable reverse prospecting. So any searches that you've set up for them, agents can tell they can't get your contacts information, but they'll have your information and be able to send you listing alerts or updates if they think you have got a client that might fit their listing. Hold on just a second here.
Christian, can you hear me? This is Pam.
Yes, I can hear you, Pam.
I like that space bar option. Can you say that again? The reverse, I wasn't tracking on that.
Okay, so the reverse prospecting, that's something that you can use if you have an active listing. You can do, and I'll show you how to do it. You can do a reverse prospect. So you can get a list of any agents that are inside Matrix that have clients with, or contacts with searches set up that your house, your active listing would fall under.
So it's going to match criteria, if you will.
Yep. And then you're able to, as a listing agent, then you're able to send those agents emails. Unfortunately, you can't send, you've got to do it individually. You can't send a mass email. So it's kind of a cumbersome system, but you know, I've known agents that use it all the time and it works well for them.
Great, thank you.
Another tool that you can use for listings that are maybe a little stagnant, you know, reach out to agents that haven't shown the property that might have clients that are interested or it fits their criteria. So I'm going to go ahead. I've just put in first name, last name, email address. I'm going to hit save here. And the contact is now saved. So I typically don't do a whole lot on this screen. I don't come into my contact screen a whole heck of a lot, but I'll show you how I use the contacts in relationship to the carts. So I'm going to go back and start a search. I'm going to do a detailed search and I'll do area 340. We'll go 250, 500. That's probably going to give me too many houses here. I don't need a list of 200 houses. Okay. I put in my criteria. If this is what my buyer is looking for, as I'm going through these houses and I figure out what I think would fit the bill for them, start narrowing down, I click the boxes of the houses that I want, that I've narrowed down for them that I think would be good for them to see in person, or right now get virtual tours of. And then down here, once I have the houses selected, down here you'll notice we've got our actions, refine, save, or carts. I'm going to click on carts here. I want to put these houses into Faker's cart. So this will give me a drop down of every contact that I have in the system. So I'm going to find my contact. Of course, it hasn't refreshed in here yet. Oh, nope, there it is. Oh no, I lied. Okay, I'm just going to make one up then. We'll use this cart. We'll use Jen Case. So if I want to put all these houses in Jen's cart, I've got her cart selected down here. I've got 7 houses checked up here that I think Jen would want to see, and I hit this add to button. And this add to button is now putting those 7 houses in Jennifer's cart. If I decide, oh shoot, I missed one, I wanted to check this one, I can go through the same process. Her cart's still up here and I hit add to, and now it'll only add that one because the other 7 are already there. So the way that I use this cart feature, I'm narrowing down the houses, you know, putting my knowledge and expertise to use here, narrowing down houses. And this way, I don't have to do this all in one setting. If I want to do a little bit every day, I can. If it's somebody coming in, you know, we're not scheduled to see houses for a couple days. You know, I can come in and look every day and see what's going on and start basically gathering together the houses that I want to show her. And that way, when I'm ready to go in and start scheduling, I'm going to go to her cart. I can go there right from here. She's still up right here in my bar, and I'm going to hit view. And this takes me to her cart. There's already a bunch of houses in here, probably from the last time she purchased, that are still in here. These are from 2017, but these are all the houses that are in her cart. This way I can narrow down what I want to show her. So when I get ready to figure out our route, print all of these. If you're somebody that wants to print them all, if you want to download them to have up on your iPad, this is just a way to narrow down what you're going to show, what you want to send them into one place. If I want to remove all of these old ones, I don't want to use these. I don't want these in her cart. I'm going to select them. And then I'm going to action, or I'm sorry, I don't go to actions. I go right here to remove checked. So if I want to delete those, I can go remove checked. Before I do that, I want to show you something real quick. Before I delete these, you'll see the little light bulb and the heart on these. It's also the date that I emailed these to her. So when I've got a client buyer that's ready to look, if there's enough inventory, I'm typically going in, I'm narrowing down, and then I send my narrow down list to the client and say, okay, here are the 10 that I think that fit the bill based on our conversation, based on your needs and wants. I want you to go in here then and narrow down to the 3 that you want to take a look at tomorrow. What are your top 3? When they click into the portal, they have the ability to either favorite a house, so you'll see a heart right there, or they can put the light bulb as kind of, yeah, I'm interested, it's not my absolute favorite. The other option that they'll have that isn't showing up right here is you'll also see a trash can. The trash can is their way to signify that I'm not interested. So I can go back into her cart then without her having to email me or call me and say, okay, I like the one at 9307 Beverly. I want to see this one. She can go in, click on this, and then once she's gone in and done that, I can jump in here and see at a glance. Oh, those are the ones she wants to see. So I'm going to select those. And that's what I'm going to schedule for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and remove those since they're old ones. We're going to hit remove check, and those take them out of her cart. There is a new feature in Matrix that was just released in, I think with the latest release in October. It used to be you could only have 1 cart per contact, and now you could, which is kind of frustrating. If you have somebody that's selling and buying, if I'm pulling comps together, I use these carts as I'm going into the system and finding comparables that I want to use for my CMA. I use this cart feature to narrow them all down so I can click on them all at once and put them right over into a CMA with 1 click of a button.
Did you do that?
I use the carts for my CMAs. So I use it, I just showed you, kind of walked you through how I use it for buyers, but I also use it for sellers. So as I go in and I'm trying to find comparable properties, as I find something that I think would be a good comparable for them, I add it to their cart. So this way, once I'm ready to do my CMA, I don't have to go find, I don't have this written list of houses somewhere, MLS numbers. I just click into their cart. Just like this, I'd click into their cart and I'd say, okay, these are the houses I want to use for the CMA. So I check all of those, and then I use Cloud CMA. So then I hit this Cloud CMA button and it pulls all of those MLSs right in here for me. Again, on the flip side, it's a way for me to narrow down what I'm going to use for that client in one place using the cart. I'm going to pause for a second and let you ask questions, or tell me if you want me to go back through one of the things that I've done in regards to the carts. Any questions?
Christian, this is
Anybody else?
Pam.
Yeah, go
Quick-
ahead, Pam.
quick question just on the area. How did you, where, is there a key somewhere for the numbers matching areas?
Yes, you're talking about the MLS area. Yes, there is. There's a big map. I think I want to say there's access to it in here. I just found it like a month ago. We used to have these massive maps that took up half the wall at our offices of MLS numbers. People that have been in the business for quite a while still use MLS numbers. I don't think they're used as frequently anymore. They're not taught to our newer agents, but there is a map. Let's go to home real quick. I think it's on, I believe it's in here. I hate how they have this organized here because it's so hard. There it is. Heartland MLS maps, the area maps. If you click on this.
Great.
This is why it was so huge in our offices. I think the College Boulevard, Michelle, you all took that down, didn't you? You don't have it up anymore. I thought she was on. She might have jumped off of this. But the maps are really geographic
Smithsonian.
constraints. Hey, Bill.
I said they sent it to the Smithsonian.
Which is
No,
where
it's
it's
not by
on.
United. We do have one. Yep, we still have it.
Very good. And so again, those of us that have I got trained using the MLS numbers. So for the areas that I work quite a bit, I could tell you exactly what the constraints are for all of the 300 numbers, a lot of the 200s, a lot of the 100 numbers, but they're geographic constraints. So a little bit more fine-tuned than using zip codes, a little bit broader than using zip codes, a little bit more fine-tuned than just using cities or school districts.
So yeah, I was curious, like Brookside, but it looks like 202 is huge.
Yep, 202 is going to be Brookside. There's a little drop down here. When you get in here, if you click on the area, it'll bring up a larger view and you can see exactly where the constraints are for area 202.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You are welcome.
Why aren't you teaching it to the new agents?
Say that again? I couldn't hear you. You're a little muffled.
Oh, okay. So why are you no longer teaching that to the new agents? I use it all the time.
I don't think they teach it anymore in the MLS new agent classes. Has anybody, Pam, you went to probably a MLS new agent class recently. Did they even talk about MLS area?
I was registered for that during this shutdown, so it's going to be a webinar later.
Okay. I don't think they're doing MLS area anymore Jenny Reck just posted in chat that they did not teach MLS numbers when she went through, which was probably about 2 years ago, give or take. But yeah, I use it all the time. All the time. Okay, so I just clicked out of our cart and I wasn't quite done in there and I want to go back to it. So I have a shortcut right here for all of my carts. And it is going to show me, I haven't been in GenCase's cart since 2017 until about 20 minutes ago. But here it is right here. So in the carts list here, it's going to tell me what are the most recent carts that I've been in. So I'm going to click back into Jen's cart, and here we are right back with the listings that I had narrowed down for her. While we're in here, I want to show you a couple things that you can now do in Matrix. These were added in October. This is just navigational stuff for you. But you can now take these and you'll see some features on here, the little up down arrow that's right next to the check boxes. You'll see how my mouse changes. And again, I get that navigation tool, the cross tool, and I can click and hold and I can reorganize these. So here's where this would be handy, I would think, as a practitioner, is these are the 8 houses I'm going to go show Jen. I am a paper person. When I go show houses, I like to print off the listing pages. I always print tax with it. Depending on how many houses I'm showing, sometimes I'll do disclosure, sometimes I won't, but then I do print off for my client the client full detail view of every house we're looking at. That way they can take some notes. And when we're done, they can go back and look at those. So not everybody's a paper person. I still am. when it comes to showings. But it used to frustrate. I used to spend so much time as I was preparing to go out and show. I would, you know, even if I'm starting at this house in Olathe, then going over to Leawood and then circling back into Overland Park, you couldn't reorder these. So when I went to print everything, I would just select, go to print. And then once it printed, I would have to get them in the right order, which takes some time, especially if you're showing quite a few houses at one time. So now I can get them in order first here and then print, and everything's already ordered for me. Huge time saver, huge time saver. So to put them in the correct order, you just, again, take your mouse over here to the arrows, click and hold, and you can drag and drop and get these in the right order. Pretty cool little tool. You can also change where you want some of these fields. Some of these fields you cannot move. You'll notice like the emailed here, I can't move. But as I mouse over some of these, I can change the order, the display order of these columns. I can also change how wide these columns are. So I can make them a little bit bigger if I want them bigger. I can also move them around. I can really customize the view on this to what's easy for me to see, what's easy on my eyes. I'm so used to looking at it this way though, I really haven't gone in and messed around with the columns, but you certainly could. You certainly could. Oop, I didn't want to do that, I just want to make it smaller again. The other thing that you can do is you can click on, if you didn't know this, you can click on the blue fields at the top and sort it by subdivision. So if I click here, it then sorts by subdivision, which is handy. Area, you can sort by price, by bedrooms, bath, etc. So some pretty handy little tools there on how to sort and order listings, just navigation stuff. While we're here, I'll show you, once you have this set up how you want to view it and you want to set it as your default, if I click right here under results, I can set the current display sort order. I can set that as my default. So now every time I do a search, it will default to this view. So if I click that, every time I do searches now, it doesn't matter if I'm in Jen's cart, just search in general, it'll default to this view. This drop down, you can select how many listings you want shown per page. I usually have this defaulted to 100. I don't like having a menu through pages. Any questions on that, or anybody that that has used some of those features wanted to chime in and share with the group how some features you found useful? Anyone? You can also type in a chat. I will show you real quick. I'm going to go back out into search. I'm going to show you another way that you can do, just pull up this recent search. Another way that you can add carts, you don't have to start in contacts. You can actually do it right from the screen. So if I've got these houses selected, I'm going to put these, I want to start a new cart. I've not started a cart for this client. I'm going to click right down here. I'm going to click on new cart and I'm going to name the cart, which I do need to show you how to do multiple carts for people. I started talking about that and then I got sidetracked. Let's see here. Jen's buying cart. And then I've got to assign it to a contact. If I have not created the contact, I can click here and this should look familiar. From here, you can click first name, last name, email address. Again, go ahead and change that salutation. The default is going to be the dear first name, last name. If that's not how you typically address people on email, change this default. So I'm going to go ahead and add this back to Jen. We'll just stay in her cart. But you now have the ability, and I started to talk about this earlier and I don't think I finished, to have multiple carts for buyer or for your contacts. So it used to be one cart per contact, And now you can have multiple carts. Where this comes in handy is if you have somebody that is both buying and selling, you can have one cart for their needs and wants on the buying side, and then one cart set up for the selling side as you're going in and pulling comps. So I just set up a second cart for Jen. So now you see she comes up twice in the contact list. One is her buying cart, which is what I just named this. And then the other is her residential cart. That was the original cart. That's the default when you enter contacts in. Any questions on that? Yeah, that organizing before you print thing is really helpful. It has saved me a ton of time just being able to do that.
Christian,
Yeah.
it's Sue Ellen here. I'm a little behind the 8 ball on this. So I have a really quick question, and it was 5 or 6 or 7 minutes ago. So I can set somebody, I mean, I used to do this, and then we got the home suite, and then we got this, and then we got another thing. So I could set a client up with an area, and they'll get a new listing alert. Is that, I'm sorry, like I said, I'm a little behind.
Yeah, they will. So if I don't use Matrix a whole lot
Okay.
anymore to send client emails, and I'll tell you why. Matrix for listing alerts. Our home suite platform, the kansascityhomes.com platform, I have found is a much better platform to set my buyers up in. You know, it used to be with our older platforms that the time lag between when they would get the Matrix emails and when they would get our platform emails was so great that as the market started heating up, a lot of us were putting people into Matrix because of the timing. They wanted people to get listing alerts as soon as possible. But now that time lag has really, I mean, that window is tightened so much. The reason that I don't put people in Matrix anymore is because it's a one-way street. Matrix does not have a public-facing or consumer search tool in it. So it's a one-way communication. So all I'm doing is dumping listings to them.
Okay.
They're not able to go in and set up their own searches or say, okay, well, I like that house. I'm really interested in that neighborhood. I want to see what else is available in that neighborhood. That happens. They have no way to do that in Matrix. They do in Kansas City Homes. I find that their experience, you know, their online search experience ends up being much better if I'm setting them up in a platform where A, they can get the listing alerts and they can get them in a timely way. And then B, they have some control over what they're searching.
Okay, so it's just it's a one-way communication. They have no way to navigate that back.
Nope, they can't go in and set their own searches up or modify the searches. The way that I use Matrix right now, the communication that I'm sending to clients is most oftentimes kind of what I walked through earlier, where, you know, I've met with a buyer, they've said, you know, I've set them up on our Kansas City Homes website. They favorited a bunch of houses. I then take those, I go into MLS and I look for houses that I think would fit the bill. I kind of marry those two lists together. And then before we go out and look, I might send them a link out of Matrix to say, okay, based on your favorites on Kansas City Homes, what I found in Matrix, you know, here are the 10 houses that I think, you know, we need to focus on. What are your top 5 that I'll schedule for us to go look at tomorrow?
Got it. Okay.
But I try, and you can even do that now. There's a really slick way to do that in Home Suite.
Okay.
And I'm trying not to send stuff from Matrix, and because I feel like we've given our clients ADD. We get so frustrated because our clients send us, you know, listings from Zillow and they send them to us from realtor.com, and we've set them up on our website. And we're like, why in the world aren't they using the tools that I gave them? Well, it's partly our fault because we're sending them Kansas City Home stuff. We're sending them stuff from Matrix. So we're the ones that are kind of doing it to them and sending them to all these different platforms. So what I like doing now is sending everything out of Home Suite. And
Okay.
I take the list that I have. So I take this list. Let me view this card of 7. Let's get this narrowed down. So I'll take that and I'll pop over to Home Suite. I'll show you real quick what I do.
Would you do that for me? That would be great.
Yeah, if you all are okay with that. It's not a Home Suite class, but I'll just show you since I'm talking about it, because I think it's a pretty slick little way to do this. I'm not going to walk through. I'm not going to spend a lot of time walking you through how I'm getting here. Hold on, I've got to make my window smaller. All my options are covered up here. Okay. So I'm going to go into Jen. Here's Jen right here. I'm going to go to email. And then I'm going to put this in a separate window. Okay, here's my list of MLS numbers. Oops. So I put that over on that side of my screen so I can see it while I'm in this one. Narrow down these homes for this weekend. So in this email, I blow past, I might write up here, you know, whatever whatever I want to tell her. Here are the houses I've narrowed down for us. You know, pick 3 of these. Here's a list of 7. Pick 3 of these that that you want to take a look at tomorrow. We've got time to see 3. So after I've typed that, wherever my cursor is, I leave my cursor at the end of that paragraph. I come down here to this little handy tool right here, MLS listings. Right here, I'm typing in these MLS numbers. So 211 or 221, 1362, enter. Popped up right up here. Type in the next one in, 221, 2965. Next one. I'll only do 3 of these. But it now puts these in order down here, and it keeps her inside of our ecosystem with Kansas City Homes. Yes, is this an extra step? Does it take me a little bit more time to do this? Absolutely. You know, versus I'm in Matrix, and really all I have to do to send these in Matrix is click that, go to actions and hit email and send her an email out of here. But I've realized when I do that, and then I'm sending her alerts from Kansas City Homes, and then she's getting alerts from realtor.com. I want to keep her inside of one system.
Okay. That's really helpful. And the part I like about that is I kind of feel like with Home Suites or the old My Home site, that the interaction was lacking. And this way it's like we're also playing a role. We're not just leaving it to them to find their own home. On Home Suites, we're saying, hey, this is what we're doing, even though you're going through that extra step.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks so much.
You bet. You bet. Okay. Let me see. There was a question in here. Jenny, yeah, you could use the multiple carts to set up different searches. Absolutely. So if you've got a client maybe that's looking in, they're saying, I either want the Lee Summit School District or the Park Hill School District, you could set up 2 different carts. One are the houses that you're narrowing down for the Park Hill search. The other could be the houses you're narrowing down for the Lee Summit search. You could absolutely do it that way. The other thing that I wanted to show you before I move on, any questions? Thanks, I like that ADD analogy too. I have ADD, so I can relate to that analogy. We're our own worst enemy when it comes to the information and stuff we're sending to our clients. Sometimes less is actually better. Okay, so I'm going to move away from, we've got about 15 minutes left here. I'm going to move away from the carts, and I'm going to show you how to set up, you may have seen on my home screen that I've got some favorite searches set up here. How I use this, if I have either, it could be if I have a neighborhood I'm farming, I might set up a favorite search here. It's a shortcut. If I have like the Nelsons were just looking for a very, very specific home. And so I had their pool search set up here. And this way I could come in every time I came into Matrix, I would click on this, see if anything new had come on the market since the last time I was there. So how do you set up these favorites? And how do you manage them? You're only allowed to have, I think it's 10 on your screen. So let me delete one here. So that way I can show you how to add one. So I'm going to go into detail here, and we're going to set up a search. We'll do that same search that we did before, 250 to 450, single family. I'm going to use area 340, which is basically 435 to 135th state line to Flum. And I'm going to hit search. I'm going to hit results. And then down here, I click on, again, we've got our actions here. I'm going to click on save. And I want to save this. I'm going to do new saved search. I'm going to call it case 2020, help if I could type correctly, home search. I'm going to put it under her name. Right here, I'm going to click this button, enable as a favorite search on the home tab. Again, you can only have 10 on that home tab. Tells me what my criteria is, and I can hit save. Something else that you could do here, so every time you come in, like on my Nelson search, for example, I click on this, I can't tell without sorting, I'll sort by MLS number to get the most current up at the top, but I really can't tell what's new since the last time I was in here. So what I could do is change the criteria and just put the list days back to like 0 to 3, because I'm in Matrix at least every 3 days. And then I'm going to hit save. I'm going to update their pool search. I'm going to hit save. And now when I click on this from my home screen, instead of it coming up with everything, it's just going to show me what's new, what's come on in the last 3 days that meets their criteria. So again, to set up a, save one of your searches as a favorite. When you're in your search, on the bottom here, instead of going, it defaults to action, we're going to go over here to save, and we're going to do a new save search. Notice you can also do a new auto email. This would be the way that you send listing alerts to clients. If you choose to set them up in Matrix to get listing alerts for new listings right out of Matrix, you do that here in the new auto email. The new speed bar shortcut, I've never used this. This is a new tool, but this is kind of cool. So I showed you up here at the beginning of class how you can do speed searches up here. So the speed bar shortcut, I can't remember what one, case 2020. It will always have, I hope you can see this on your screen, it's a little tiny backslash. It'll always have that. So watch this. So I'm going to save this. See my speed bar up here? When I log in to Matrix, takes me right into her search. Pretty slick, pretty cool. Okay, any questions on saving favorite searches or the speed bar shortcut, your options once you're searching? I want to use our last 10 minutes. Go ahead and put questions into the chat if you have them, and I'll answer them. I want to use our last 10 minutes, which I think is really, really, I wish I had left more than 10 minutes, and I'll stay on longer if you want me to, if you're able to. But I can only stay for about 5 minutes because I've got to jump on at 2 o'clock. And it's okay if I'm a few minutes late to that one. But I want to show you how to pull stats. How many of you, if you'll just type in chat again, a yes or a no, how many of you have pulled stats using Matrix before? Okay. I want to show you how to pull stats in Matrix. I think right now is a great time to become an expert on the market, become an expert on a day-to-day basis of what's going on in the market. if you've got clients that are active right now or are wanting to put their house on the market, they are incredibly anxious about what's going on in the marketplace, and you need to become the expert and the resource for them. So I'm going to show you how you can do that using the matrix stats. I use this on a regular basis, not like in the last week or so. I use these stats all the time before I go on listing appointments. This is where I pull my raw data. And I love the graphs that come out of this. They're not fancy. They are incredibly simple, but they take what I'm trying to tell them in words and back it up with data and information. So it's one thing for me to say, you know, since you bought this house in 2016, prices have really, you know, you've heard the news and you think your house is appreciated by 10%, but let's look at your neighborhood. Prices have really been flat since then. Here are the numbers, and I flop these numbers in front of them, and it takes what I'm saying and it validates it. It gives credibility to it, and it's really simple for them to see it, you know, see it right in front of them. So let's go over to our stats section. Again, up here at the top, I'm going to go into stats, and we're going to go residential. And bear with me, if you've not been in here before, there's some nuances in here that I want to show you. You've got essentially two different search screens right here in front of you. Right here is one. This is your presets, customize, and then you've got a save option here. And then over here are some other search criteria, and here you've got your search, your chart, and your data. So we're going to start on the left. We're always going to work left to right, top to bottom. So in presets, these are the system presets. These are the most common things you'll probably come in here and look at for stats. So one of the things that I like to pull is the historic sales price trend. So if I'm going to a listing appointment and I want to see, okay, what have prices done? Again, this is going to become pretty valuable, you know, as we get a couple weeks into this, to come in here and pull some stats. Unfortunately, we're not going to see the effects on the market necessarily for a couple weeks. There's some other stats that you can pull that I'll show you, but right now I want to start with this sales price trend, just as an example, because it's easy to do. So I want the historic sales price trend. If I click this down arrow here, oh, I don't want to click that, sorry. I want to go over, I'm on my sales price trend. I'm going to go here to customize. And what time frame do I want? My clients purchased this house in 2016. I want to go back and show them the last 7 years. What has this neighborhood done? What's the trend been? Here's the statistic it's pulling as sales price. It's a median. You can also pull the average, but you can use any one of these. I use that preset, so it automatically gave me the sales price median. These are all the different stats that you can get. The chart type, I'm going to show you the difference when we pull the chart. You've got a smooth line, column, line, area, smooth. I like the smooth line. And then group by, this is set default here is to set up to group by month. I'm pulling 7 years. This chart's going to look like a disaster if I pull it by month. So I'm going to pull it by primary year. And then, so that's the data that it's going to pull. I've got to tell it what criteria I want. So over here, I'm going to go single family, and I'm going to do Leawood South. That's all I'm doing for this report. I just want single family. Leawood South, if I just pull Leawood South, I'll get some attached in there. So I pull single family, Leawood South. I can get as crazy as I want to down here with some of this criteria. This is all the criteria that you have. It's not every function in MLS or every option in MLS. This is it right here on the screen. You can add additional fields down here if you want to. But keep this simple. The more data you put in, you're going to get so narrow that your data is really not going to be reliable, or your output's not going to be reliable. So I'm satisfied with that. I've got my setup over here good. I'm going to hit generate. Simple graph. Right there. I can tell them here's what's happened since you bought the house in 2016. You know, here's where it is now. Obviously, this graph doesn't support the narrative that I gave you earlier. We'd be having a whole different conversation. If I click up here, I'm in chart right now. If I click up here to data, this actually gives me the median per year, by year. So I want you to watch something real quick. I'm going to hit chart, and we're going to do group by month. And I'm going to generate. Again, looks like a disaster. If I lay this down in front of somebody, they're going to look at me like I have 3 heads. Nobody can follow that line. But over here in data, on the month by month, I kind of like this because I can put some seasonality to this, right? Our market here is very seasonal. You know, oftentimes what you're going to get in December is not going to be the same as what you get in May, June. So when I'm having a conversation with them and they're saying, okay, Kristen, it's December. Should we list our house today? Or should we wait and list it? We're not in a hurry. Should we wait and list it in February and hit the spring market? I can look at this and say, okay, let's see how much seasonality affects your neighborhood. If I want to go out and pull, their neighborhood's too narrow. I want to pull the zip code. Let's see how seasonality affects their zip code. I don't know if that's the right zip code or not. I'm guessing. Actually, I know it's not. It's 66209. Generate. I go to the data, and now I'm looking at the whole zip code. And I can kind of come up with a story for them with numbers. I can back up what I'm saying. We all have our assumptions about seasonality, you know, listing at different times of the year. I've got the numbers right in front of me. Is my normal line for seasonality applicable here? I've got the stats right here to back it up. Or to say I need to think about this another way. So you'll notice I like in the data to sort by month, but when I'm showing the chart, this is a little hard. It's harder to look at with the chart. So I like on the chart to do it by primary year. I think it's easier. This to me tells a pretty, you know, compelling story to the seller about what home prices have done in that zip code over the last 7 years. If I want to print this and put this in my listing presentation, right down here is your print option. And down here, it's if I hit print now, all it's going to print me is the map or is the graph. I'm going to hit show tabular data, and it's going to do it by year. And then I hit print. And this is what it'll look like. Again, it's not fancy, but it tells a story. Tells a story.
It's very good.
So let's go back and look at some of these other ways that you can custom. You can get crazy with some of these. You can do a, if you go to advanced options here, you can have a secondary statistic. So I want to know what the median price is, and then I want to know days on market. So I want days on market, I want the sold median. I want to know these houses, what were their average days on market? And let's see if we can find a seasonality trend with days on market in addition to price, right? This chart is going to look like a disaster. Just give me a second here. Yeah, who wants to show that to a client? Looks like the stock market. If I go over here to data, now I have for the last 7 years, by month, the median sales price and the median days on market. And if this is too, I'm like, this is too much. I don't want to show them that. I'm just going to do the past 3 years for this overlay. Make it a little bit more digestible. So there's 2017. And I can see here in their zip code, what's been the average days on market? Where are the peaks? Where are the valleys? So pretty cool stuff here. There's, again, you could customize by time frame. You can go year to date, previous year. You've got your statistics here. These are all the different ways you can slice and dice information. I will tell you, I'll go back and pull this because it was on this Leawood South one. If you get too narrow, I mentioned this earlier, if you get too narrow with your criteria, it is going to tell you, let me generate. See this warning down here? It's going to tell me it only found 98 listings for this whole 3-year period. and they're telling me it's not enough to chart meaningfully, which means you really don't have enough data to be able to pull some good narrative out of it. So just be careful about that. Be careful about that. I could spend hours inside of the stats looking at some of this stuff. It's pretty awesome. If I want to compare, let's go the past 2 years. I don't want any secondary. Group by month, generate. Oh, I did want secondary. Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. I can start tracking here. Oh, I only pulled Leeward South. Let me go back and change that. Don't have enough to really get any good data. Believe it or not, I'm a numbers freak. I love data and love numbers. I like pulling this raw data, and you see the number of sales by month. So I can look at year-to-year comparison. How is the market this January compared to the last 2 years? February, as soon as we're done with March, I'll get March data in here. It's pretty cool stuff here in stats. All right, who has questions about this? Or anything you want me to show you on the stat side, or go back and show you in matrix in general? Feel free to put it in chat or unmute yourself, but I'm gonna quit talking. I know we are at our hour now, and answer any questions that you all have, whether it's something I covered or I didn't cover.
Christian, in a search, is there a, I was searching Gardner, have a listing coming up in April in Gardner, and I was getting just like 2 listings. And is there minimum criteria to put in the search fields?
Are you talking about in the stats section or just over in the
Back in basic search, sorry.
Basic search?
Yeah, I was searching on, active, sold, canceled, and then the city of Gardner, and then going back like 6 months, and I was surprised at the small amount of data I was getting.
Let me see how many I get so I can compare.
I wasn't even putting in a price point.
What price point?
I wasn't, but if that's a minimum, if that's the reason I wasn't getting anything, that, could be the case.
This is showing me down here based on active pending sold Gardner. I just did sold the last 6 months. Right down here, I can see with that criteria, I've got 266 matches.
Okay, I'm doing something wrong then.
Yeah, I did another. You might have clicked on something else in here and not realize that you did.
How do you clear? Is there just a start
Yeah,
over?
there's like, say I don't want Gardner anymore. I've got Gardner highlighted. If I hold down, oh, where'd it go? We'll just do Elmwood. If I hold down the control button and click on it, or I'm sorry, it's not control, command, and click on it, it'll unhighlight it.
Okay, thank you. Obviously I was doing something wrong.
Not a problem. You are most welcome. Okay, there was a couple of questions in the chat here. On the stat, show the secondary. So let's go back over here to our stats. We'll go to customize. If you don't select a preset, you can come straight over to customize and select your own stuff. So if I do time frame, I'm going to do past 12 months. We'll go days on market for our sold. Advanced options is what you have to click on to open up a secondary statistic. So if you want to see days on market layered on top of average sold price or median sold price, you select one up here and then do your advanced, and in your secondary you can select have a secondary statistic. Obviously some of the statistics will make more sense to pair together than other ones will. I hope that answered your question, Patty.
It did. Thank you.
All right, if nobody else has questions, we will wind things down here. I appreciate you joining. If you get in and have questions about anything that I did today, I am recording this session. I did record it. So I will have it up on BHGenius under video resources pretty shortly. Hopefully this afternoon. They're a little slow today with their downloads, but hopefully I'll get it up there pretty quick. So you can always go back and watch that. If you get stuck or have problems, please always feel free to email me. Let me know what's going on or instant message me, whatever's easier. Good to see you all. Have a great rest of your afternoon.